What's up, guys? UFC 254 just wrapped up, and the card exceeded expectations. It didn't look like the strongest card on paper, but definitely delivered. 5 out of 6 fights on the main card were finishes, all within 2 rounds. The only fight that wasn't was the co-main event, Robert Whittaker defeating Jared Cannonier by decision, and actually, that was only the 3rd decision of the entire night. We had 2 decisions on the prelims, none on the early prelims, and only 1 on the main card. And we are going to start with that main event. Khabib Nurmagomedov defeats Justin Gaethje by second round submission 1 minute and 34 seconds into that round. Khabib is just one of the greatest. I mean, what he did to Justin Gaethje is something a lot of people didn't expect to happen. He made Gaethje, who was the best wrestler, everybody's talking about Gaethje's wrestling, and he was the best wrestler Khabib's ever fought. Even in the fight, it was evident. He defended multiple takedowns, and not just defended it, but like completely shut down those takedowns. But Khabib made the greatest wrestler he's ever fought panic almost. Not panic, but like very worried about the takedowns. And that is something I did not expect from Gaethje. I thought Gaethje and Tony Ferguson and maybe Charles Oliveira are the only fighters in this division who would not be worried about the takedowns. Right? Gaethje can defend them. Tony and Charles Oliveira have amazing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, very confident on their back. But Gaethje seemed to be worried. Maybe because he wasn't confident in the fight getting on the ground, because his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was hugely lacking in this fight. He had good striking, a lot of power, really good leg kicks in the fight, good movement. He moved better than almost anybody Khabib's ever fought before, and that includes Conor McGregor and Edson Barboza. And he had amazing wrestling. He just did not have the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he started to get tired in the second round. And it's something I've been talking about, from my Justin Gaethje wrestling breakdown. I showed everybody some of the tendencies he has when opponents are able to get him on the ground, and those same tendencies I showed you guys are the exact same stuff that happened in this fight. When he gets caught in a submission, what does he do? Instead of trying to escape it, he tries to power through it by slamming you. He tried to do that when Khabib had the triangle choke. And when an opponent's shooting on him and he sprawls, he doesn't chain wrestle that well. And nobody has ever chain wrestled with him ever in his entire MMA career, right? Khabib is the first guy, and this is what I said why I thought Khabib would beat him in the wrestling department. Khabib is the only guy that is going to be able to chain wrestle and get the better of the positions, because Gaethje is super explosive. Khabib's whole style revolves around I shoot multiple times until I get you down. Not that initial shot like the American style wrestling usually is. Khabib has a different style of wrestling. So that whole question got answered in this fight. Khabib is a better wrestler. Even though Justin Gaethje is more credentialed in wrestling, high-level collegiate wrestler, he still got outdone by Khabib's Dagestani style. And Gaethje had his hands really low. He was ready for it, right? He was very cautious of the takedown. He kept moving around the cage. He stayed away from the fence as much as possible. But Gaethje, because of his worriness of the takedown, he just started launching out overhands and stuff. And that's not what you want to see against a wrestler. Uppercuts, knees, jabs, straight punches. Those are usually the shots you want to throw at a wrestler who's constantly ducking their head. And Khabib not only ducks his head for the takedowns, he ducks his head when he defends punches, right? So if you're able to line up some uppercuts or something, you're able to land them a lot more meaningfully. And the only uppercut Gaethje ever threw the entire fight is the one that actually landed on Khabib. So the approach of just winging out overhands lost him a lot of opportunities in the striking exchanges, and ultimately made the striking exchanges a lot more competitive, where it shouldn't have been. The overhands and the looping punches are coming from the mentality that Gaethje just wants to hit him with something big and knock him out. You've seen this in Dustin Poirier, you've seen it in Barboza, you've seen it in Michael Johnson, you've seen it all over the place. Everybody does this. Just Conor McGregor had a different approach. He's a little bit more methodical when he stayed on the feet. He wasn't as worried about the takedowns as some of these other guys. But the mindset's almost like, you know my way to stop the takedowns? I gotta knock you out. Like, that's how I stop your takedowns. And evidently, that has never worked out for Khabib's opponents. Everybody tried it. Barboza tried to throw high kicks and stuff and winging counter hooks. Michael Johnson, at least he was throwing straight shots, and he was actually catching Khabib with some of them. Justin Gaethje winging out overhands. Dustin Poirier kind of the same thing. And it's all credit to Khabib. He makes fighters fight differently in front of him. They know what he's going to do, but they are still so worried about it, they don't fight the same. They have to completely change themselves in order to deal with this one aspect of Khabib's game. And I've never seen it to this level. Not even GSP. GSP has the best double leg in UFC history. And not even that causes as much worry as Khabib's pressure and takedowns. And do you know what makes this even greater than all that is the fact that Khabib had a broken toe coming into the fight, and he had mumps, which is like a viral infection. and he just beat another interim champion, doing all this, submitted him in the second round easily. I mean, when it got to the ground, it was easy for Khabib to transition through positions and get submissions on Gaethje. Gaethje had no defense, no resistance, almost at all. I mean, I haven't seen a championship level fighter resist nothing on the ground like Gaethje has. He's a complete wrestler. He's a great wrestler. It's hard to take him down. I think Khabib is probably the only guy that's going to be able to take down Gaethje, so we probably won't see this in the future from Gaethje, but man, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is just lacking. But Khabib goes and retires afterward, 29-0. Greatest record in MMA history probably, 13-0 in the UFC, has defended his lightweight title 3 times, which ties the record with BJ Penn and Benson Henderson. And not only that, he beat 4 championship fighters, RDA, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje. He also beat Gaethje in the first round, which means he only lost 1 round in his entire MMA career, which is one of the biggest accomplishments I've ever heard of. I mean, how do you only lose 1 round? And that round he lost was very competitive, striking with Conor McGregor for the most part. A lot of people want to downplay Khabib striking. He is so much better than people give him credit. He's not the prettiest striker, he's not the cleanest striker, you know, not the best form. He's kind of wild and awkward on the feet, but he's fast, he has good reflexes, and the takedown threat just makes it so much easier for him to strike with anybody, right? His jabs were landing precisely on Gaethje. I mean, his right hand was landing there. He was throwing straight punches for the most part, landing some push kicks here and there. His striking is so much better than people give it credit, especially defensively. Almost nobody hit this guy clean in his entire career. Oh wait, we talk about losing 1 round. How many clean shots to the head has he taken his entire career? You could probably count it on 2 hands. That's insane, man. And think about the strikers he fought. Michael Johnson, Edson Barboza, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. That's insane, man. He's only taken a handful of punches to the head clean. And Gaethje hit him hard. Gaethje's a powerhouse. He hit him hard with that uppercut and left hook, and Khabib ate both of them. Like, he has a solid chin behind his defense. In my personal opinion, where I'm going to put Khabib in the GOAT list, I'll put him top 3 probably. So I still think GSP is the greatest of all time. You can possibly put Khabib number 2. You can make an argument for it. Stipe Miocic is up there somewhere. You know, Demetrius Johnson's up there somewhere. You know, do you put Khabib above those 2? Probably. He's definitely up there, man. Top 5, top 3. I think everybody would agree he's top 5 of all time. But he says he retired, and I honestly think the only way he'll come back is against GSP. I think that's the only one, because that's what his father wanted. His father wanted Khabib versus GSP as his last fight. You know, that's the fight that he wanted for Khabib the entire time. And GSP seems to be up for it. It all comes down to Khabib, really. I understand he made a promise to his mother that he won't fight without his father, but hopefully we get the GSP fight, which doesn't take anything away from either of them. The loser of that fight takes nothing away. It's the GOAT fight. The winner of that fight is established the greatest fighter of all time. In my opinion, and in many people's opinion. It'd be one of the biggest fights of all time. It could even surpass 2 million pay-per-view buys, and it's the only fight GSP would come back for. So hopefully we get to see that fight. And as for Justin Gaethje, he's in a weird position. He says he wants to fight very soon. If he wants to fight very soon, either they do a rematch with Tony Ferguson. I don't think it makes much sense, but the fact that Tony took it on short notice and did the company a favor, maybe they can bring it back to Tony. Tony's without an opponent as well. If it's not Tony, it has to be Dan Hooker, because that's the next guy in line, unless they do Charles Oliveira. I want Oliveira to fight a top contender, really. That would be a very interesting fight. If it was up to me, I would like to see Gaethje versus Dan Hooker as number 1 priority. Number 2 would probably be against Oliveira. But if they do the Tony rematch, I am not questioning that at all. Unless he waits for the winner of Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. Because if Khabib retires and they cannot convince him to fight GSP, I think you do Justin Gaethje versus the winner of Conor versus Poirier for the vacant title. That's absolutely what would have to be. Tony Ferguson has to fight Oliveira or Dan Hooker or something like that. And then we look at the co-main event. Robert Whittaker defeats Jared Cannonier by decision 29-28, which surprised me a little bit. I thought Whittaker won all 3 rounds. Where was this Whittaker? It was a little bit frustrating because we were wondering where this guy was when he fought Israel Adesanya and when he fought Darren Till. This is the guy we've been wanting to see. I mean, he was so patient. He was setting everything up. His jab was the best weapon, which is something he didn't even throw at all against Izzy and Darren Till. Throwing so many high kicks, leg kicks, push kicks. I mean, that jab to right high kick is so sneaky because of the way he attacks generally throughout everything he does. It makes it hard for the opponent to gauge that slower but very heavy high kick compared to his usually blitzing style of attacks, right? He stutter stepped, he was taking angles. This is the guy I wanted to see for a while, man. And I said in my prediction video, now I got this fight wrong. I thought Cannonier was probably going to win, but to my credit, I did say if Whittaker comes out there smart and coming out there with a more methodical approach, I said I would lean to his side winning the fight. But Cannonier was a bit too hesitant. It was almost like he was watching Whittaker, like the entire, just like watching the show instead of being a part of it. He gets dropped by the head kick, he comes back, and there's no urgency really, besides when he landed the jab that rocked Whittaker at the end of the third round, right? He started to be a little bit more urgent to get the knockout. He tried to throw a knee and stuff like that. He fell because of it. He put some effort into that. But for the entire fight, there was like no urgency at all. Very little punch count. Didn't counter really that much. Even at the times Whittaker did blitz him, no counters at all, and that kind of surprised me. I thought that's how Cannonier would win the fight. I thought he would counter the blitz of Whittaker, but he did have amazing leg kicks. I mean, it showed how powerful Cannonier is, man, to just knock Whittaker off his feet with some leg kicks. But I'm going to say right here, the Whittaker we saw tonight is probably the most dangerous fighter against Israel Adesanya. Possibly. I don't think he would be Izzy. I really don't. I think he's still a little bit open the way he attacks. That has to be the next fight for sure. But I do see being a lot more competitive, especially if Whittaker starts to wrestle a little bit more. Not to get the fight to the ground, because Izzy's a hard guy to take down, man. His footwork and his hips are strong. But just to mix up for the striking, you know, get in there a little bit more, use more leg kicks and push kicks. Don't wing at the head with overhands and stuff like that. He did say that, you know, when he was the champion, there was this pressure on him that he didn't want, as well as he was kind of burnt out of the sport. So hopefully we get to see this Whittaker fight Israel Adesanya. That's the fight we wanted to see. And as for Jared Cannonier, let's do him versus Paulo Costa. That is the perfect fight to put on right now. That is the only fight to put on right now. That'd be insane. Now, I missed the Alexander Volkov versus Walt Harris fight. I saw a few moments there, but I was actually making a video of Phil Haas versus Jacob Malkoun while that was happening, so I was trying to keep up while I was editing. I know Volkov landed a lot of good body kicks and stuff. He had just much better striking overall from what I saw. But when we talk about Phil Haas getting the 18-second knockout on Jacob Malkoun, man, that was explosive. He showed a lot of good striking skills for a wrestler. I mean, he's only 9-2 in MMA. Very much inexperienced, especially to develop that level of striking in your game. He's able to deliver power in southpaw and orthodox and put good form to his punches. That is not even something you could say about the absolute best fighters in the UFC. Not saying he is one of the best fighters in the UFC, but that is an aspect of the game that everybody needs to have down. Able to fight in both stances, because it gives you a whole nother world of possibilities and angles. He was very patient, good footwork, moving in and out, used the jab. Looked at some of the weird reactions from Malkoun, who seemed to be beyond uncomfortable against the cage. Right, he was like touching the cage the entire time with his right hand and not defending anything. Phil Haas used that opportunity to go to the open side with the left hook, right straight behind the guard, and that was pretty much the end of the fight, where Phil Haas then landed a right hook, left straight combination in the opposite stance. Great performance from Phil Haas. He's on a 5-fight win streak, all 5 wins by first round finish, and we got to see his wrestling in the UFC. Lauren Murphy looked really good, patient, methodical, calculated against Shakirova. She looked so strong in there in the clinch. Her pressure was really good in the first round, throwing some more counter punches, which you don't normally see from Lauren Murphy. When she got that body lock, it was pretty much over. She was so much stronger than Shakirova. Shakirova eventually gave up her back, and Murphy just snatched on that rear naked choke with a swiftness. Now, she is ranked number 5. She got bumped down 1 because Jessica Andrade defeated the number 1 contender, and now she's the number 1 contender. I don't think Murphy warrants a title shot. I think she needs another win. To be honest, the fight that makes sense to make, winner gets title shot, is Lauren Murphy versus Cynthia Kelvio. They're ranked number 5, number 4. Jennifer Maia is fighting Shevchenko. Caitlin Chukagian not too long ago lost to Shevchenko, just lost to Andrade, so she's a bit away from a title shot again. Let's do Murphy versus Kelvio. Winner probably gets a title shot because they got to get over Andrade. Andrade defeated number 1 contender. The only way to do that is put that fight together, and the winner probably trumps Andrade, possibly. Doesn't matter. No one's beating Shevchenko. And then we go to Magomed Ankalaev, putting the rivalry to an end when he knocks out Ian Cutelaba in the very first round, man. Ian Cutelaba had a very good early start. He landed that big right overhand as Ankalaev threw the leg kick. He abandoned the leg kick afterward and stuck to counter boxing the entire time, waiting for the aggressive approach from Cutelaba. But Cutelaba was landing some really good stuff on the legs, man. And I wish he would fake up high and go to the legs a little bit more, because it seemed to be a huge opening on Ankalaev, right? Because Ankalaev was leaning on everything. He was pulling away at everything Ian Cutelaba was doing. If you just fake up high, you make Ankalaev lean back and expose the legs. Then Cutelaba just lands a side kick to the knee or a leg kick, and that will throw off Ankalaev's game 100%. But for some reason, Cutelaba just became so aggressive. He tried to take the outside foot and throw the big right hand. And I understand he was chasing Ankalaev all over the cage, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. He wasn't just chasing Ankalaev. He wasn't just following him. He was just taking the outside foot. They're in opposite stances, right? That's all he was doing. I understand the commentators are saying that Cutelaba should have probably cut off the cage. He has to move to his right in order to do that. But what the commentators did not say was, that puts Cutelaba closer into the power hand of Ankalaev. It's a lot more dangerous to do that against opposite stance fighters. If Ankalaev was an orthodox fighter, yeah, that's generally what you want to do. But it's a lot more dangerous than that, man. You saw Ankalaev landing left hands on him a few times and dropped him in the fight because of it. I don't think Cutelaba wants to move into that side that much, right? So he took the outside foot, which takes away a lot of the weapons from Ankalaev besides the right hook. And that is where he fell hard, because he was stepping far on the outside foot and reaching all the way forward with the big right hand, not really setting it up that well. And Ankalaev just leaned back, counter right hook every single time, to the point where Cutelaba was like, you know what, I gotta do something different. And he even got wilder. What he did was he switched stances forward, threw the most winging right hook I've ever seen, and then tried to throw a back fist after with the same hand. And Ankalaev just leaned back and countered with the right hook again, and that put Cutelaba in place for Ankalaev to land the left hand, and that was essentially the end of the fight. I didn't want to see the ref allow Cutelaba to get knocked out the way he did, because he was pretty much done from the knockdown. But I guess because of the antics of the first fight, they had to see him get knocked out this time in order to know for sure. Great performance by Ankalaev. I honestly think he's going to be a title contender, right? I honestly think he actually puts up a very good fight against Jan Blachowicz. Stylistically, I mean, we're talking about a guy with a very strong wrestling game that we don't see that often. Very good counter striking. His striking game actually resembles Jan Blachowicz a lot. They are very similar in the way they strike. They're both very powerful. Ankalaev is a little bit faster, whereas I think Jan Blachowicz has more power. That is a fight I definitely want to see in the future, and I think we probably will. Tai Tuivasa had a good knockout over Stefan Struve. The uppercut was weird how it landed and Struve fell from it. What do you say, man? Struve again did not use his reach. He has the most absurd reach in the UFC, and he uses almost none of it. I mean, sometimes he'll lift his leg, sometimes he'll throw a knee out there, but he's not keeping distance on these shorter guys. Tai Tuivasa is a short heavyweight, he's 6'2". But even when Struve fights guys like Mark Hunt and Roy Nelson, they just get in on him, man, with no obstacles in the way. It is a bit frustrating to see, to be honest, right? Tuivasa looked a lot better. He was smarter with his pressure. Ultimately, because there was nothing in the way, there was a knockout eventually going to happen, because Tuivasa, if he gets on the inside of Struve, he's definitely going to land bombs on him, man. And Shavkat Rakhmonov had a great submission win over Alex Oliveira. That guillotine choke was so tight. Once he snatched onto it, he knew he had it. I don't know why Alex Oliveira went to wrestle with him, right? Shavkat is extremely credentialed in Sambo, whereas Alex Oliveira is not in almost any grappling department. Where Oliveira has the advantage over most fighters he's going to compete up against is long distance striking. He's extremely fast, extremely athletic, has that wide stance and precise right hand, but I don't know why he likes to get in close on his opponents, right? He likes to wrestle with them, he likes to get in the clinch and stuff like that and make it harder on himself. And due to that, man, Shavkat was able to land with that counter right overhand, able to walk down Oliveira pretty easily and eventually make it a wrestling match due to the pressure. And I do have to catch up on the rest of the fights. It was a pretty early card. I actually like it, man. 2 p.m. main card. I wish this is actually the norm. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.